Could you test your
your camera up just a bit higher. Your head.
one?
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the CIFOR ICA's first screening of the Forest Film Festival. We're so glad you can join us. Today, we have five films for you to watch and learn more about how they were made from the researchers and film producers who helped them bring them to life. We have a packed schedule of stunning short movies, and as part of the program, we have a short discussion with researchers and producers after each film. There is also a chance for you to let us know what you like it. Please see the link on CIFOR's website to poll and rank the films based on three categories. First, best cinematography. Second, best story. Third, best research. We will reveal the winners tomorrow, so make sure to come back to find out. At the end of today's screen, we will also share details about the next Forest Film Festival, where we will open for submission from partners. We're looking forward to highlighting films about forests and sustainable forestry from all around the world. Today, I am joined by Jun Kimayo, who will moderate the discussions with our filmmakers and researchers, and Vito Gama, who will introduce the films and filmmakers. Over to you, Vito. Over to you, Vito.
Here to ask the beautiful forest princesses to share their honey. The video documents this continuing tradition rooted in local wisdom that combines indigenous and religious rituals. Forest Film Festival, action! Okay, right now in YouTube, video is playing. And
quên po pa hao ai nè mà te có te le lum na vai quên po pa hao ai nè mà te có te na na quên po Quên po oh pa hao anh em có thể quên po oh pa hao anh em có thể
So that looks like a very difficult way to satisfy a sweet tooth. Annie, these honey hunters have been doing this for generations. So could you please tell us what inspired you to document this tradition on film and how this has been relevant to your research work? Annie?
I'm sorry, Annie, you're still.
Yes, yes. Okay. Sorry. Yes, thank you, June. Yes, it's quite really amazing, right? That local honey trees climber could reach up to 80 meters height of eucalyptus trees, and one tree could hold as much as 120 beehives. So, as has been shown, the video captures a continuing tradition throughout generations, practiced by one of the customary clans in West Timor, Indonesia. And this tradition has rooted in their local wisdom, running sacred business of harvesting wild honey. And in the same time, this traditions practice has significant contribution to keep the forest honey landscape intact. However, this has not really been well documented and widely recognized. So we want to capture this kind of invaluable traditional practices into the film, but we want to make a film not only from our perspective, but we want to make a video or film from the local community perspective, unlike most of the research documentation film. So we don't have any script prepared for them. And fortunately, we were working with a dedicated and creative movie team from Invis, Indonesia, who share the same ideas in agreeing on the story angle that we want. So in our research, this video has been effectively been used, particularly as our visual means in communicating the main message in the policy advocacy process from local to national level as part of the project of Canopy that we implemented in CIFOR in collaboration with ICRAF. So the film is actually quite short, and usually we call this a teaser. So this has been quite effective in raising awareness, particularly among the policy and decision makers at various government level. And also having the video shown to different stakeholder groups have been very effective to get their attention. And this is really helping us in narrowing down the discussions into the main topic. So the Mutis honey in West Timor provides significant income for its harvester livelihood. And because this honey production relies on a healthy forest environment and ecosystem, so there is an extra economic incentive to ensure protections of the ecosystem that depend on it. So we want to convey this message through our video. However, this film is only part of our policy research, and we have implemented also a different kind of facilitations to develop the policy and regulatory framework to ensure that discontinuing community traditional practice could be ensured in the future for future generation. Yeah, I think that's my answer to your first question.
Thank you. So I'm aware that you spent a lot of time doing your research with these hunters. So could you share with us or whatever you learned or experienced during your time with the honey hunters?
Okay, so well, if you think about it, I mean, we have been doing a research for for quite some time there, and I think I have a couple of interesting experience. But one of them I could share with you was during the research we did to get the information for the video and also for our research, we met with the customary leader of Olinphobia, which is Mr. Isaphobia. You can see the picture here. And he passed away, unfortunately, not long after the video was, at the end of the production processes. So we were quite lucky to have him helping us, in providing valuable informations about this ancient traditional practices, and because he has been like a living the legend, with this community, and he was really a nice person and humble leader. So this film is quite important in our policy work. So we would like to dedicate also this film to him, his family, and also all of the forest honey hunters in West Timor. And if you think about it, other excited experience for me and also for the team, when we have finished the video productions and we organize a movie showing event for these local actors and actresses as well as the children. So we went back to the village, arriving in the evening, and they were like waiting for us. And then there's not much that we could do because they're quite very limited kind of facility. So we just hang a white cloth that we bought from the local markets, and then we play the videos, and somebody like helping us to find speakers, so everybody can hear out the sounds from the video. So it was like a rare and moving moments for me and the team to see their kind of faces with a mixed feeling or happy, surprise, and then sometimes they're laughing to see themselves, in the videos, and then excited, so and then yeah, and this is not only for kids but all for the old generations who were like, involved in our video making. So I was very touched about it, and it's something that I would not forget, for my lifetime. And also during the research, we found out later that the elders told us that there's been some generation gaps, in passing on the sacred forest honey harvesting ceremony, and appreciating the honeybee as their partners and beautiful princess. Before they are doing the harvesting, they sing along with all of these appreciations, and then therefore we have been inspired by this, and we kind of produce also a children storybook and also the animated version. So basically it's like to motivate the children, being so they would like be proud of what the ancestor and their, the clan, that they have this kind of valuable kind of practices that should could be kind of ensured, to be there for a long time for the future generation. So I hope you would also enjoy these complementary visual products. So I think that's experience that I could share with you, June. Thank you for having me. Over to you, June.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Now, I think Vito.
All right. Thank you. And if I have to stand 80 meters above the ground in a tree, I can imagine that. All right, and now on to our next film, The Elephants of South Sumatra. I think it's behind me, right? So, land use conflicts between humans and elephants in Sumatra have stranded elephants inland, leaving them without access to their traditional water routes. Liberating these landlocked elephants and restoring their natural habitat means finding solutions that will also benefit local communities and livelihoods. For this film, we will be joined by CIFOR researcher Yusuf Bahtimi Samsudin. Forest Film Festival, action.
These are wild elephants spotted in the remaining peat swamp forests of South Sumatra. Reaching back as far as the 7th century AD, humans and elephants have a long history, starting with the kingdom of Srivijaya. Sri Indravarman introduced himself as the king who had 1,000 elephants to the chief Muslim civil and religious ruler Caliph Umar bin Abdulaziz. Since the 1980s, there have been human-animal conflict. A national transmigration program relocated migrants into the elephant's home range. Many forests were cleared, turned into open fields, and timber was extracted. Landscape changes stranded Sumatran elephant populations on pockets of land. Once they roamed free in the region, moving between forests and the shore, stretching from Palembang to the east coast of Sumatra. Now they are restricted inland by the plantations and residential areas. Environmental issues in the wetlands continue to be increasingly complex, including the infamous forest fires that continue to occur across Sumatra. The impact is also felt by elephants. Padang Sugihan Sibukor Wildlife Reserve is the only conservation area in South Sumatra. If more areas were declared conservation areas, the elephants' natural habitat could be restored and the elephants could access their old routes back to the waters. No less important is how the surrounding communities can benefit from conservation.
Kami mengharapkan itu bagaimana masyarakat dan gajah dan juga hutan itu beradaptasi. Gajah dan juga masyarakat itu saling membutuhkan gajah juga membutuhkan lahan dan membutuhkan perlindungan, juga manusia juga butuh lahan dan juga butuh perlindungan dari hasil hutan. Kan selama ini gajah itu sudah beratus-ratus tahun di sini. Memang dari dulu memang gajah itu memang habitatnya ada di sini gitu kan. Kami kalau musnah, kami pun nggak rela juga kalau gajah itu habis begitu saja gitu.
A possible solution to the problem can be found in the restoration of the buffer zone between the conservation area and the community land.
Dalam melihat ini, CIFOR mencoba bagaimana untuk dapat menjawab 3 permasalahan besar yang pada saat ini kita diskusikan pada tataran global, yaitu makanan, energi, dan lingkungan. Untuk itu kita mencoba bagaimana caranya untuk dapat menanam tanaman bioenergi dengan juga mengkombinasikan dengan tanaman pangan untuk merestorasi lingkungan pada ekosistem yang terdegradasi berat.
Wow, what majestic creatures. It looks like there was a lot of drone footage of the elephants. So, Yusuf, could you mind telling us how dangerous it is to get close to these wild animals? I mean, and how hard are they to find? Yusuf?
Yes, thank you, Jun. Yes, they are very different compared to the tame elephant. The wild elephant is larger in terms of size. I mean, comparing to African elephant, of course, they are smaller, but they are still quite large animal. Well, the Mahout suggests 50 meters for a safe distance with the white elephants. In terms of difficult to find them depends on how large the elephant's population is and how large the area in the landscape. Besides Elephants use infrasonic sounds so they can detect even the movement of clouds. Even they can determine human hostility to the level of human different ethnicity, age, and gender. If they feel danger, they will swiftly react. In our case, the crew recorded them at the distance 3 to 4 meters. This is very dangerous, very not safe. We find them accidentally after 2.5 days trying, which is surprising because a few people are skeptical that we could do it. They said that it could take weeks to find them. But then, surprisingly, in the third day, we find the group enjoying their morning meal. Very sure they know that we are around recording their activity. The crew did not move an inch when they realized they are only 4 meters away from the elephants. It's very dangerous. As the bus entry is quite thick, we also fly drones to capture the activity of the whole group. For those of you who might know, drones make quite of noise when it's operated. So looking at them not being hostile, I could say we received the hard consent to make the film. Over to you, Jen.
Well, thank you so much for your information. And I understand that you, during your research, you did a research of how these animals interact with human beings and how they can coexist in that landscape. So, could you share with us what you learned in the process? Uh,
Thank you, Jun. Elephant, along with tiger, is very much respected animal by the local community in South Sumatra. The earliest record of human and elephant in South Sumatra relationship was started from the megalith era. We can see it at the sculpture of calf hugging human or human hugging calf. This was as a symbol showing the harmony relationship between human and an elephant. We also know from the film that elephant is an important animal to Srijaya Kingdom. Unlike many other areas in the world, it is very rare to find elephants being hunted in South Sumatra. One of the Malay farmer who live in the conservation area, who was involved in the movie, said they are like brothers. At least that's what his father has told him since he was a little. The most interesting part, we cannot find any traditional Malay settlement in South Sumatra transfer elephant home range. So they have quite very clear distinct space between which part area is human settlement, which part area is elephant home range. So they can avoid conflict and share and respect space to each other. This is showing the very coexistence applied by the local community in the area. When we asked the local people what kind of lesson they can take from elephant, the farmer said it's their social life and compassion to each other. Elephant is very emotional animal, even they mourn for their dead relatives. If I may to share a few anecdotes, about 38 years ago during over 200 elephant translocation in Sumatra because of the conflict, they made quite unique formation when the female elephant was in the front and in the side, and the male elephant was in the rear, protecting the calf in the middle. The group will stop when the calf was exhausted, which took them like 44 days to cross over like 70 kilometers. The adult elephants even stands in line forming a bridge when they're crossing the river, so the calf can cross safely. From this story, we can see how the elephants care to each other. Another story, perhaps, in different area in Sumatra, there was an unfortunate conflict between human and elephant, where the elephant was victimized by an adult human. The family member of the elephant was then retaliating. They located the person who have done harm to their family member, which unfortunately the person was with a child at that moment. So can you imagine what the elephants do then? They charge towards the militias, but before that, one of the elephant's members secured the child away, as the child have done no harm to the elephants. This is a sad story, but we can see how elephant care to others, even to human who have done no harm to them. I guess that's about elephant and local communities feel towards them. So how about the current condition? If you look at my backdrop, it's an elephant named Topan. He is about 20 years old now. He's tame elephant. He was found quite young when he was separated from his group in the middle of forest fire. The fire which was mostly caused by human due to misbehave agriculture development. that perhaps tell a little bit background how elephant receive negative impact from human activities. In the film, we can see Pak Edi, the farmer, has a knowledge that elephants should be protected as they have lived in the area for a long time, while also human need economic security. With the vast degraded area of peatland in the landscape, we should find an answer how to restore the degraded peatland to its ecological function, while provide protection to elephants and provide livelihoods for the community. Among the answers could be to plant native or adapted plant species that have economic potential in the market or usable for community to use daily. One example is Cerbera manghars, or locally known as bintaro. This is poisonous elephant, and the elephant are very aware of it. They won't consume the Cerbera manghas. But the species is traditionally used by the local community. So you can see in the background that it's an example of Cerbera manghas. It's also called in English a sea mango. So it kind of like mango, but it's very poisonous. The traditional community use it for biokerosene and have potential to develop for the second degree of bioenergy. If it managed finely, the species, I guess, can be used to form natural barrier to avoid elephants to trespass human settlement area. Of course, with respect to elephants' needs of space. While the elephant's home range area can be restored with other important species, including elephant's food source plant species. Of course, Cerbera manghas should not be the only species to develop. Traditionally, local communities known for their complex agroforestry system to produce food, energy, timber, and fiber sources. Many other species can develop as source of livelihoods for the local community, including Colopilum inoculum, for example, that is important tree to produce skincare and bioenergy. Food producing plants such as sagu and fruit trees or even fish could play important role for sustainable livelihoods for the Pitsuan communities. When the area of human place managed optimally in sustainable manner, including through the introduction of creative economy to develop products from the existing rich biodiversity sources for human livelihoods, with much respect to wildlife needs, including large mammals such as elephant, I'm quite sure it can contribute positively to human-elephant coexistence. So you can see how different pit swamp restoration activities very much linked to each other. Elephant is important for ecosystem health as they are notably known as mega gardener. So they eat fruits, they spread the seeds everywhere in the forest for the ecosystem health. Meanwhile, cultivation of native and adaptive species of wheatworm using agroforestry without drying the peat, or also known as horticulture, could provide economic incentives for community and contribute to sustainable development. However, we can have that optimal economic activity in a land for community livelihoods and economic development or special designated area for conservation of elephant. But the most crucial thing is human view towards other creations. In this context, elephant, for example, I mentioned previously to you how local community have positioned elephant very dearly, thus they are willing to share space with them. This is an especially important factor that should be put in restoring landscape and conserving alien elephants and other species. Uh, Perhaps my final message for to cherish the human and elephant coexistence is we should not put the elephant in a fence. We live with them, interact with them, understand them, we share with them, and cherish them. Thank you. Over to you, Jun.
Thank you, Yusuf. Wow. And now, it's getting hot in here. And now from Sumatra across the Indian Ocean to Kenya's mysterious mountains. This film, produced by photojournalist Kabir Danji, looks at how years of colonialism, population growth, and land use change and are eroding the traditional beliefs of this mountainous region, threatening this Garden of Eden with extension. Without further ado, Forest Film Festival, action!
Twice a week, Joseph Mbeya trudges purposefully into the forest, a few miles south of his home in the lee of Mount Kenya, to forage for roots, bark, sap, and leaves. His neighbors find this behavior a little odd, and his esoteric knowledge of the trees and plants eccentric. Most of them would choose paracetamol over his herbal concoctions of steeped and infused teas. Yet, among the cedar, rosewood, waterberry, and stinkwood trees, the 64-year-old finds treatment for arthritis, toothache, ear infection, upset stomach, and even prostate cancer.
Hii ni mti moja hii ya dawa, unatoa ngozi unasemusa kiwa unakunywa na tupo.
Mbeya's knowledge of and communing with the forests flanking Mount Kenya's craggy peaks is part of a value system that sees trees as being worth more than just timber or charcoal, that understands chopping them down has a cost to ways of living, and knowing that this outstrips the market price. Scientific research has caught up with traditional thinking. A recent study by the Center for International Forestry Research, CIFOR, and the Kenya Forestry Research Institute, KEFRI, identified both the value of Kenya's Afro-montane forests and the threats to them. But such beliefs are fast fading.
There were aspects of the tradition that were helping conservation of the environment.
The Mount Kenya Trust is a charity that works with the Kenya Wildlife Service and Kenya Forest Service to conserve the mountain ecosystem and improve the lives of those living around it through tree planting, family planning, and income-generating activities. Increasingly, modern conservation methods recognize the value of traditional knowledge of the land. It used to be known that God lived on the icy scarps of Kirinyaga, Mount Kenya's original Kikuyu name, and the people lived below, farming and herding on its slopes, but rarely venturing into its sacred upper realm. But then the colonialists arrived, bringing Christianity and taking land, leaving less space for a growing population. Old beliefs faded, the land became crowded, and the mountain's forest became just another resource to be exploited. Wildlife was hunted and trees cut down for firewood, charcoal, timber, or to make way for homesteads and agriculture.
The old men used to believe that is where God is, and it's a sacred place that needs to be respected by all. Those traditions are kind of being eroded, and when they get eroded, they are eroded with the benefits that they used to carry in conservation.
But the old ideas of managed access, sustainable use, and respect for the forest and its trees are beginning to show signs of a comeback. Samson Thurainira was born in 1923. Over his many years, he has gained too many grandchildren to count and lost every one of his friends.
Pakaditanwa umuhimu wa miti na bagitikidia kumeanda mwito jwa chokoda jwali itumika mbitikiti atidi nambe mwe muchore wa kwande guru neji imuti.
Deep inside the forest that ringed the mountain, a hallowed sense of wonder persists. In the old-growth Marania forest, thickly towering trunks of rosewood, cedar, and olive are draped with lichen, and moss carpets the earth, contributing to a cathedral silence. It is otherworldly, the ground soft underfoot, the trunks damp to the touch, the trees centuries old, the sunlight breaking through in narrow shafts, and the temperature several degrees cooler than the outside. David Muiraria, a 25-year-old forest ranger, patrols in Maranya. It's his job, but doesn't feel like it. At the Amenti Forest, a wooded peninsula on the mountains north, connected to the other reserves by a narrow spit of forest, another ranger, Harun Metwiri, is also out on patrol. The 32-year-old shares his colleague's passion for trees and forests. Metwiri wades through, grasping weeds, and over loose basalt rocks to where charcoal burners recently abandoned a kiln, one of more than 20 found in this patch of forest this year alone. The diminution of Kenya's mountain forests has local and global impacts, affecting rainfall patterns, river flow, erosion, and carbon sequestration.
It's not just about the trees and the wild animals in the forest, but also the people living around the Mount Kenya ecosystem.
This concept is manifested in a rehabilitation program that sees local residents nurture seeds, plant trees, and oversee their growth in exchange for cash and the right to farm within prescribed areas of the forest.
We know if we decide to plant the trees with other communities, the survival rate of the trees planted won't be as high as opposed to when we have the communities involved.
At the Gitinka Tumaini Tree Nursery, a 15-person cooperative on the mountain's northern fringe, indigenous trees are collected from the forest by hand as inch-tall wildlings, and then grown in the nursery for 6 months before being planted. Mount Kenya Trust then buys the knee-high seedlings back at 15 shillings each, bringing in around 64,000 shillings for the group. In addition, the growers are permitted to farm within the forest boundaries as part of what is known as the Shamba system, planting potatoes around the young trees that they are responsible for looking after. At nearby Kiambogo, in the Ontolili Forest Reserve, tree planting is underway to rehabilitate the once denuded landscape of a cypress-lined half-acre shamba a few hundred meters from the forest edge.
Muti kiki tumiten juitikia uniti danga akwa imutu wa atemona jujo wa akwa lidanga akwa mutena jujo wa akwa tontu jujo wa atemwa jwa tuluembao mbikirwa mutine jura muchoro kwa tulikona tudikona ju kiki tumiten bitikia buru muti.
Wow. Did you know that the area shown in the film is not so far from where I live in Nairobi? And yet this is a world where most people in the sprawling city don't get to see, or it's easy to forget the traditions. Kabir, I mean, Mount Kenya is described as the Garden of Eden, a sacred place where God lives. The people of Kikuyu call God Ngai. Now they believe Ngai dwells in Mount Kenya. So did you experience a sense of supernatural while filming?
Yeah, thanks, June. I think that, forests are, especially the forests around Mount Kenya, are very old, very ancient, they're quiet. And, despite everything that we think we know, there's always a lot of things that we don't know. And when you're there, you definitely have a sense that time is a lot slower, that it moves at its own pace. And I think that historically or traditionally, we've always looked or called the things that we don't understand supernatural. We've had beliefs about them. Religions have been made around it, and I very much think, in that respect, there is something very supernatural about it. There's something we don't understand. There's something mystical about it, and I think it's an important part of who we are as a species and the human spirit. There are always things to know. that we don't know, and there is always things that we won't know. And I think that it's part of our constitution to have belief and wonder and explore and discover.
Thank you so much, Kabir, for sharing your experience. So as she said in the film, it's not just about the trees, also the community living there. So could you briefly tell us about this area, its ecology, and how the traditions are being protected? And how do you think does this area stand a chance, to survive everything?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think so. There are two factors at play in and around the Mount Kenya forests. There's the traditional government bodies, the environmental organizations. There's people from the private sector who are interested in it, and they continue to provide pivotal role and access to resources for what we have come to know as traditional environmentalism and conservation. However, if you look at the state in which the planet is in, and this is not a criticism of those bodies specifically, but the traditional methods that we have are no longer good enough, and to a degree they've failed or they're failing. And so when we were making this film, the real question that we asked was, what can we do, or what chance is there? And more of what we're starting to see is that traditional ways of conservation, traditional forms of environmentalism that are etched into an older way of life that is not so prevalent anymore in some parts of the world, or even countries, or in even parts of Mount Kenya or amongst the Kikuyu who live in that region, are now coming back to the fore. And this is because the locals who live in the area are now seeing the effects of climate change, of a changed environment, and how it's affecting their lifestyles. And so they've now started to invest in older ideas, or ideas that existed before the land was so populated. And they're starting to take these ideas and to adopt them. And I think what we discovered in the making of this film was that if you don't, it doesn't matter how many great ideas we have, if we're not able to implement it at a ground level, if the people who are most directly affected aren't invested or don't believe in the solution, then there's very little chance of making meaningful change. And the best part about traditional environmentalism is that it's born out of the ideas that people have been raised with. It's things that people already believe in. In fact, there are ways of life that are made around conservation and protection of forests. And so it's really just a reinvestment in what people have traditionally known. And if anything, it's just about us winding back the clock to go backwards.
All right. Kabir for that great story. And now we go from Kenya back to the Asian continent, Nepal. We're going to hear another story, this time about the life of Shanti Tamang, a 20-year-old mother who was left behind in her Nepalese village with her young son and in-laws after her husband went to Qatar to find work. Her story and those of other wives, mothers, and sisters reflects the profound changes in traditional roles and land management practices in the mountainous South Asian nation as young men leave their families behind for overseas employment. We're joined by filmmaker and director Bishnu Kalpit after Forest Film Festival. Action.
मेरो नाम शान्ति तामाङ मेरो उमेर चाहिँ 20 वर्ष भयो मेरो घरमा सासु ससुरा छोरा भान्जा भान्जी छ मेरो छोरा 3 वर्ष भयो लाङदी देवी स्कुलमा पढ्छ गएको 5-6 महिना भयो जाँदाखेरि त दुखै भयो पैसा नपाउने यताति गाउँतिर खोजेर पनि बल्ल बल्ल पैसा पाएर पठाइदिए विदेश कतार हो गएको 1 लाखमा 50,000 तिर्यो अझै 50,000 बाँकी छ पैसा पठाउनुहुन्छ पठाएर मै जान्छु मेरो नाममा पठाइदिन्छ बेसर लिन जानुपर्ने बेसरमा जान्छु मैले लिएर आएर सासुको हातमा बुझाउँछु अनि बुझाएर अनि मैले खर्च गर्नुपर्ने म अलिकति लिन्छु अनि बाँकी उनीहरूले दिन्छ उनीहरूले खर्च गर्नुहुन्छ गाह्रो अब त्यही त नि किसान मान्छे गुरु जोत्न गाह्रो हुन्छ है गुरु जोत्न अब मकै खन्नाहरू मकै लाउँदा फेरि यताउति गर्दा गाह्रै हुन्छ नि पहिला भएको र नभएको धेरै फरक पर्छ आफ्नो श्रीमान बाउ हुँदाखेरि त ल त्यो गर्नु सजिलो हुन्थ्यो आरोलाई त आरो सासु ससुर काम आरो नै गाह्रै विदेश गएपछि त केटा अब जुन भन्छ जोत्ने मान्छे त विदेश गएपछि अब हामी केटी मान्छेले नजोत्ने भन्छ जोत्न दिँदैन खै आइमाले गुरु जोत्यो भने त धरती उल्टिन्छ के भन्छ त्यही भएर जोत्न दिँदैन कसैले पनि यहाँ गाउँको रीतिथिति हो कसैले पनि जोत्न दिँदैन जग्गा जमिनै छैन अब भन्नाले यस्तो बारीहरू खेतहरू छैन धेरै आद्याको त्यहाँ गएर खाने हो अर्काको 5 हालको धान खेत छ अनि 1 हालको कोदोबारी अनि यहाँ घरबारी 1 हालको गर्दा 2 हालको कोदोबारी 4-5 हालको धान खेत छ धेरै छैन अर्काको आद्या गरेर खाने हो 12 महिना काम गर्छ 6 महिना खानु पुग्दैन मेला जान्छु नि अब अर्काको यस्तो मेलासँगै परमेला गरेर हिँड्छ अनि गरेपछि आफ्नो नि आउँछ अर्काको पनि जानुपर्छ जेला त अब दिनभरि काम गरे जम्मा 250 आउँछ 250 ले अब 1 पोको तेल 1 पोको नुन ल्याउँदा सकिन्छ अनि उहाँ त अब विदेशमा त कम्तीमा नि 1000 रुपैयाँ हुन्छ 1000 रुपैयाँ यहाँ त हुन्छ नि त अलिकति 30-35-30,000 कति हुन्छ त्यो नेपाली 60 त्यति हुन्छ फेरि अब यहाँ त दिनभरि एक दिन काम गर्यो जम्मा 250 आउँछ 250 ले अब कति खाने यत्रो घर परिवार पाल्नु पर्छ दिनै काम गरिन थकान लाग्छ झ्याउ पनि लाग्छ आफू मात्र काम गर्न पर्यो भने रिस पनि उठ्छ है कहिलेकाहीँ घर परिवार देख्दा गरिबहरू छ आफू पनि त्यस्तो छ है त्यसो देख्दा अब उनीहरू गाउँमा बसेर केही उत्पत्ति गर्न सक्दैन कि अब विदेश जाऊ जस्तो लाग्छ मन गाउँमा बसेर यस्तो उस्तो गर्ने भए पो अब गर भन्नुहुन्छ त केही पनि गर्न खोज्दैन गाउँमा बसेर अनि यस्तो अब गाउँमा फेरि बसेर के अरे यो हालेर रक्सी चुरोट खाएर हिँड्ने केटाहरू गाउँमा बसेर केही काम छैन बरु विदेश गएपछि पस्ताउँछ है अनि त्यही भएर विदेश जाऊ जस्तो लाग्छ मेरो मन अब केटाहरू विदेश गएपछि त अब को पाउनु त अब कोही पनि पाउन अहिले गाह्रो भइराख्यो कमा त ल्याउनु भयो कि ल्याउनु त अब कसरी ल्याउनु भयो मलाई थाहा छैन दुःख ल्याउनु भयो सुख ल्याउनु भयो कसरी गरे अर्काको विदेश अर्काको ठाउँमा गएर कसरी गरे दुःख गरे है परिवारहरू सबैसँग हुँदा फोन गर्नुहुन्छ कहिलेकाहीँ आफू अब इमु खेलाउनुहुन्छ के अरे है मेलापात गएको बेलामा खाजा खाने बेलामा अनि बस्ने बेलामा एकछिन चलाएर कुरा गर्छु एसएमएसमा अनि धेरै जस्तो त बाआमासँगै हुँदा फेरि फोन गर्नुहुन्छ हुन्छ अब त म एकचोटि दुईचोटि मेरो श्रीमानको 4 दाजुभाइ छन् ऊ विदेश भइहाल्यो के अरे ठुलो चाहिँ यहाँ उता हुनुहुन्छ अनि माइला चाहिँ भर्खर विदेशबाट आउनु भयो साला पनि भर्खर विदेशबाट आउनु भयो जान चाहन्न म गाउँमै बसेर खाने अब बाल बच्चा पाल्नु पर्यो आइमे मान्छे विदेश गएर के गर्नु र उमेर छ जस्तो त कमाउनु पर्यो के अरे अलिअलि कमाउनु पर्यो नि त बुढेसकाल लागेपछि त कसले खाँदैन कसले के आइदिने अलिक 4-5 वर्ष कमाओस् अनि अब जस्तो लाग्छ गाउँमा यहीँ बस्ने कहाँ जाने अब जन्मस्थान नै यही हो सबै ठाउँ यही हो कता जाने यही ठाउँमा बस्ने कतै नि जान्न अनि सोच गरे मैले
Wow, what a story. Shanti says she can't imagine moving away from her home village. You know, it's her birthplace. Everything for her is there. So, while interviewing, did you interview other women who shared the same sentiment as Shanti? And and do other women like move with their husbands to settle to start new lives elsewhere? Huh?
Yeah, thank you. Some people wants to stay in the village because they like their livelihood, they like forest, they like to work on the field, and of course they born there. But most of the people they wants to easy life, and so young people immigrates from rural to urban area. And yeah, in city area they can get more opportunities, and they get more facilities in the city area, so they get attracted by the city life. And yeah, nowadays, because young people they are migrant, they wants to they are in the abroad for their job. And we can see in the village elder people and the children are in the village, and women, and most of the young people they are abroad. And that's why they most of the people they want to migrate from the village to their uh, city area.
Thank you so much, Vishnu. And I also have another question. Shanti said that the locals believe that the world will turn upside down if women start plowing the fields. With fewer young men around, because most of them are going to look for better lives, I mean, how are these traditional responsibilities changing? Vishnu?
Yeah, earlier there was a earlier there was a false belief in the Nepalese society. If women plow the field, it will be considered as a bad luck, and and bad luck for their family and the whole society. But the situation is different now, and the situation is changed. Now they break the rule because if they didn't plow the field, and then all the land will be barren. And that's why now they break the rule. And now the women also doing the plugging. And in the past, in our Hindu mythology and Hindu society, uh, if it was believed that no woman can go the cremation, cremation ceremony. But they still nowadays, because young people are not in the village, that's why they break the rule and they are going in the cremation ceremony too. That's why the situation is changing now.
Okay. And I'm afraid this is going to be our final film, but it's a very great one. This final film by our partner, Urban Street Forest, is one episode of the Urban Street Forest video series about the certification and solution to this problem. It provides a glimpse of planting in arid zones to restore land in challenging conditions, giving hope to others in regions that are less harsh. Joining us for the short discussion after this is Urban Street Forest Anouk van de Beek. So, Forest Film Festival, action.
Hombre, yo eso no lo veré, pero de aquí a 20 años la montaña va a estar toda verde.
¿Por qué plantar árboles en zonas áridas?
Los suelos aquí en Almería están casi muertos, son desnutridos. Pueden llegar a ser así negros, suelos como un bosque, descompactados y fáciles para la vida.
We can talk about it, but really do the work is maybe one of the biggest challenges of our time. And it's not only about trees, it's about bringing back the ecological functionality. Listen to scientists, but especially listen to those people who are in the field doing it. It is low-tech understanding, and stay there for decades to make sure the forest will become big enough to capture carbon, restore biodiversity, harvest water, and that we get a local climate that will bring back those water pumps and rain where it was there before, like in this place.
¿Cómo se planta árboles en zonas áridas?
Se trata de buscar el sitio que tiene tierra, que tiene humedad, en un barranco al lado de una rambla, en una antigua terraza de cultivo abandonada. Y luego también creo que hay que jugar mucho con los matorrales, que crecen solos. Los matorrales mediterráneos son muy importantes, son muy resistentes, protegen el suelo muy bien de la erosión.
Así que aportamos compost a todos los árboles para que puedan crecer, porque esta tierra no le queda alimento ya. Aquí se van criando los microorganismos protegidos del sol, va guardando la humedad y el suelo se va a ir mejorando, va entrando en la vida, van a llegar más insectos, más animales. Es muy importante que el suelo siempre esté cubierto para no tener tierra de desierto.
Wow, it seems amazing that trees will grow in such an arid land. Anouk, would you love to tell us about this region and how the locals want it to look in 50 years?
Yes. Well, this region in the southeast of Spain is most of it is a semi-arid zone, a semi-desert, and due to bad land use, climate change, there's an official ecocide going on there because there's big olive plantations, and they're at a 422 overexploitation of the groundwater. So some aquifers are already empty. A lot of greenhouses too in this area. So there's a lot going on, and villages are emptying. You can see that in some places there are, only a few children left at a school, and the teacher would bring their own children to keep the school running. People have to leave their villages, so the population is declining. And of course, if you ask people in general, they would love to see their countryside greener again. And the reality is that, they would love to see it flourish. They would love to see, more life on the countryside. But the reality is that a lot of men, older men especially also, are spending time at the countryside. They're the ones who live there or spend the weekends there to take care of their olive trees. Their wives, their children, they're not really interested anymore in spending time at the countryside, as Vishnu also mentioned before. So they spend most of the time in the cities. And I talked to a farmer. He was amazed that his children kept asking him for lemons. Daddy, could you bring olive oil? Potatoes. And then he said, they all have 2 cars, but they don't even manage to get to the farm anymore. They're just asking me for their food. And they do visit the near village where they were born. They visit my wife and me there, but they don't manage to come a few minutes further to the countryside. So that's in a way, very sad actually. But on the other hand, in spite of all this, there is still hope for revival, and there's still a growing group of people that have a strong emotional connection to the land, and that really look forward to a brighter future.
Thank you so much, Anouk. As Vito said, this is one of a series of films about restoration. I mean, would you mind telling us about how you're hoping to inspire action through this film?
So as you say, it's part of a desertification series, which obviously talks about the problem of desertification, but then and restoration as well. I mean, we don't want to only talk about, hey, what's wrong, what's happening in the world. I mean, of course, obviously there's a lot going on that has a negative impact. But then in most of our videos, we really like to show the work we do, or the work that other people do, we like to talk about positive action and solutions. And in this video particularly, there's talked about the importance of planting trees. It's also shown that planting trees is no rocket science. I mean, as you can see in this video, it's about doing the work, as one of the scientists says. And I think this is really important to transmit to people, because everyone could learn to plant a tree, even in arid zones. And I think in this way, we really hope to inspire people to plant a tree, whether they plant a tree themselves or whether they plant a tree with an organization that plants trees.
Thank you so much for your amazing and generous words and your calling to, to inspire the world to action. So in contrast to the other films we've seen today, yours takes place in a region that has been less forested for a very long time. So was it difficult to motivate locals to understand the value of trees and forests, or is the appreciation of trees just an instinct?
Well, yeah, this really depends on who you talk to. So there's various attitudes here. I remember interviewing a farmer, and I asked him, so why is it possible? Why aren't there any trees growing on the hills here anymore? And his answer was, because we cannot cut the trees anymore. And there I really had to think twice. This sounded like a paradox to me. But then he put it really simply, and he said, well, if I'm not allowed to cut a tree anymore, why would I then grow a tree? And then another person would say, why would I plant a tree that doesn't grow fruits? So in this sense, you see that a tree is merely seen as a product, which also makes sense because people need to make a living. But there is slowly coming a change in attitude, and more people are starting to see the importance of trees, and not only as a product, but as trees being part of a bigger ecosystem. And I think this is really inspiring. And we for example collaborate with Alvelo, which is a farmer organization here, and they have many farmer members working on regenerative agriculture. And those people are passionate about planting trees, about combining planting trees with their agriculture. And in this sense, there's a lot of positive movement going on as well. So the network is growing, and there's more and more positive action taken, and more actions towards tree planting and restoring the ecosystem.
All right. Thank you very much, June, Anouk, and all the for these incredible films. And now it's time for you. Yes. You, the audience, get to share your thoughts on these films. Go to the website, CIFOR.org, or your YouTube comments to find the link to the poll so that you can rank the films based on the best cinematography, best story, and best research, according to you. We will share the results in the same page tomorrow, the same web page, and so come back and find out. Also, this is going to be interesting. On the website, we will be some exciting news about how you can participate in the Forest Film Festival 2021. And for this, my colleague Cole will tell you all about it. So Cole, over to you.
Thanks, Vito. Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Cole, and I'm the CIFOR Social Media Coordinator. First of all, please allow me to say thank you for spending time with us, and we hope that you enjoyed this event as much as we did. And now, we're very happy to announce that we are officially opening the submissions for the Forest Film Festival 2021. please head over to the CIFOR website for the full mechanics of the submissions, and you will see the link right in front of your screens. Alternatively, you may tag us on social media and use the official hashtag ForestFilmFest if you would like to submit your entries or recommend a film to us. Now, should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out and we'd be more than happy to assist you. Once again, many thanks for joining us, and we are looking forward to your submissions and participation in the Forest Film Festival 2021. See you then. Back to you, Cindy.
Thanks to everyone for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed as much as we do. Please check back tomorrow when we announce the winner of today's films on CIFOR's website. In the meantime, have a wonderful day, and we look forward to see you again soon.